Welcome to the Like a Doss podcast, where Ronnie Doss shares insights regarding life, leadership, and personal development. For more of our resources, visit ronniedoss.com. Now, let's join the podcast.
Hi there, it's Ronnie Doss. Welcome to the podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about the seasons of life. The seasons of life. Now, we all know winter, spring, summer, fall. We know about those seasons. That's not what I'm talking about today. I'm going to talk to you about what I believe are the three seasons of life, the ones that we walk through, that a lot of times we use to identify who it is that we were at a time, who we are at a certain time, and hopefully we see where we are with some clarity so that we don't believe that the one season of our life defines our whole life. You've probably heard it said before, don't let one page, identify or at least summarize a whole chapter. Like if you're reading a book, one page doesn't tell you about the whole chapter, and one chapter doesn't tell you about the whole book, right? So you got to make sure that you're not using one season to identify your whole life. So if you went through a bad season, what you would call bad, and what many people call bad is a season where they just learned a lot, right? But if you go through a bad season, maybe you're not as comfortable as you thought that you should be. You dealt with some things that you believed you shouldn't have to have dealt with, that kind of thing. If you walk through that, you know that as you got on the other side, you probably learned a ton. Like learning is important. And if you take what wisdom you can draw out of the tough times and the tough seasons, I think it helps us to prepare for better ones, more rich seasons, so to speak, where we can create more wealth, not just money, but create more wealth as it pertains to our own relationships, wealth as it pertains to our own spiritual well-being, our mental well-being. You know, when you find wisdom by going through challenging times, you pull that wisdom out, you apply what it is that you're learning, I think your life gets richer. I think many times when people aren't willing to pull lessons from what they went through, they just create a story about how they shouldn't have gone through that thing, and then that thing they went through, that small season, or maybe it was a long season, depending on how you look at it, that season, ultimately, they begin to identify with and say that is who they are, that they have to go through this type of thing. You know, some people say, well, I'm a fighter. Well, it's like, okay, well, at what point in your life are you going to stop fighting? I mean, you went through a point where you really needed to fight to get through, but does that mean now that you have to create an enemy all the time so you can continue to fight because that's the identity you've created? You know, I'm a survivor. Okay, so you're always surviving. You're not really just thriving in life. You're always looking to survive. I mean, these are questions that we can look at. I'm not saying any of us have to be right or wrong on it, but I think we can be really, we can be misled when we think that one season of our life really identifies us, right? It labels us. It makes us who it is that we are. When in fact, I believe there's a few different seasons that we want to look at and have a better understanding of. If I were to think that there's three seasons, then that's just what I'm going to share with you today. Three seasons. The first season would be where you think that there is an unlimited amount of time. You know, when you're a child, like you don't understand time. Like my daughters, a lot of times, you know, they're late getting out the door because they haven't managed their time. They want to go to school. My daughter Kennedy just started in school now. So both our daughters go to school. We had homeschooled for a long time. They're now in Montessori school, which is awesome. They're both doing really well there. But as far as management of time, my 10-year-old daughter Addison does a great job. Kennedy is still struggling, right? I mean, she's 5. So, you know, with that, there's a little bit of not understanding so much about time. But when you're young, you think that time's unlimited and you don't really have to manage it because it's always going to be there for you. And so that first season of life where you think time's unlimited, this is the one that comes crashing to a halt when something happens or you lose someone that you care about or anything. You get sick for a while. Maybe you find out that, you know, your life is not going to look the way that you thought it was going to. And in this moment, this first season, when you think time's unlimited, it comes to a screeching halt when you realize that, hey, this person got taken out of my life sooner than I thought. All right, I'm feeling a pain that I didn't realize that I would feel because I thought this person was going to be around forever, or there was some accident or some tragedy. You lose someone that was a friend, someone that was a family member. Like this is that first season when you go, oh my goodness, time is really not guaranteed for any of us. And that'll happen. Like you expect older people to pass away when you're young. You're like, oh, you know, they're 70 or 80, they're older, right? But now, you know, I'm in my 40s now. I'm thinking, well, wait a minute, that's really not that old. And, you know, it's amazing how your lenses change on these seasons, but when you're in the first season, you think your time's unlimited. And I think that's the one that we all have to grow out of, no matter what. I don't think typically people are born with the understanding of how valuable time is. I don't think people understand that. I don't think any of us do. And maybe we're not supposed to. as we're younger. But I think this is the first season, and this is where you think that you have an unlimited amount of time. The second season is where you move in and you start to realize that this time is no longer guaranteed. And then you start to feel pressure like you need to succeed. And so this happens like there's societal norms. It's like go to school, get out of school, get a job. Next thing you got to do is you got to have a house with a picket fence, white picket fence around it, nice yard. Like you got to have those things or else. In this second season, the pressure that comes from these societal norms can be huge. And the pressure, it provokes all these things in us to where we're stressed, we're worried. I mean, think about our country in the United States, like healthcare. We have the greatest healthcare systems. We spend so much money on being able to give people more or longer life. But what we've really not done, even with developing all the conveniences, if you think about it, I don't think that we've necessarily created a society where people operate with a great well-being. There's a big difference, right? Like being able to have your heart worked on or your kidneys worked on or some procedure to help you when you've gotten sick is one thing, but it's altogether very different to have a very deep well-being, a peace of mind about you. Because many people that we see don't have that. They're stressed, they're worried, they're frustrated, they're not making enough money, they're not keeping up with the Joneses, so to speak. They don't have the things they think that they should have because they're in this season where they're realizing that time is not guaranteed. And so if they're ever going to create this thing, they've got to do it, and they've got to do it now. And that second season is a tough one, right? This is the one where people, it's the midlife crisis thing, right? This is where people have heart issues because of stress. They, all sorts of issues as far as their health because of this pressure that I think comes during this second season. And then there's this third season. And the third season, I believe, is where we see many people who have gotten a bit older, have at least, maybe not even older, matured a bit in their being because, getting old is easy, right? Getting better takes some work. So to work on who it is that we are and to work on our perspectives, I think that's growth. And there are people that have grown into and arrived at this third season. And the third season is where you realize that all of it was a gift anyway. And that you probably shouldn't have judged yourself and other people for whatever their season they were in or whatever they were doing in their season. Like I have to be very careful. Like I'm very, very passionate about personal development and transformation. I'm absolutely passionate about it. And, it's easy for me to start to say things like, this is what we should do and that. Like I know, like I'm the expert on it. And trust me, I believe in what I teach. The results from people that I work with are phenomenal. We have great testimonials of people from around the world that I have worked with and helped and trained their teams as an individual. But, I have to also realize that I don't know jack. Like, I think I know, but tomorrow I realize that the lens that I have could change. It could shift because of an event, because of a circumstance, because of something that I realize in reading a book or spending some time in quiet meditation. I have this epiphany or this aha moment. And what that does is it actually dissolves the old belief that I had where before I was probably pretty certain. And now I start to realize, well, if I was so certain about that, and now I realize that I didn't really know, what is it that I'm probably trying to be certain about right now that may not be true in the future? Like we have to be willing to look at it that way, I believe, right? I could be wrong about that also, but I think that it's a healthier approach when we realize that this gift thing called today was just that, the present. It's a present. It is a gift that's offered to us. And when we realize it's all a gift, we start to say, maybe I don't need to worry so much about what everybody else is doing. Maybe I just need to focus on what I'm doing, how I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. Now, that doesn't mean that I become so self-serving that I'm completely blind to other people's needs, but I am at least coming from this place of mental and emotional and a spiritual state of being to where I'm okay. And I don't feel this pressure from that second season to where I have to succeed and I have to succeed right now, or I am not so naive to think that time is unlimited, right? I think as people move toward the end of their life, they start to appreciate time more and more. I was having this conversation yesterday with one of my great mentors who I can even sit here in one podcast episode and tell you the impact that he's had on my life. And, he was packing up. He was going on a trip to do a training. He does trainings all over the world. He's in his mid-70s. Phenomenal human being. And we were talking about now how many opportunities I get to go places. And how now prioritizing being with my family is so important to me that, of course, I weigh the occupation and what our business is doing and our company is doing. Of course, I weigh that out in the sense that I know I have to provide for my family, take care of my family. But I'm also looking at it through the lens of the time that I have with my daughters is limited. A very good friend of mine, Jeremy, we were talking about how, with our daughters, he has a daughter, I have a daughter, and we were talking about how we only have so much time left with our daughters that by the time your daughter gets to the age of, or even your son also, but I have two daughters. We were talking about daughters at the time. By the time your daughter gets to the age of 18, I believe you've spent maybe on average 80% of the time that you'll ever spend with your kid. Because of course, your daughter's probably going to move on and start a relationship, maybe start a family. And the time that you get to spend with them is very, very limited from that standpoint. And so I think about that a lot. So when people ask me, would you come speak or could you come do this? At first, my first knee-jerk instinct is go, yeah, let's go do it. But then the other side of it is I go, wait a minute. Do I need to look at this differently? And do I need to consider that this time that I have with my daughters is limited? And it's very important what I sow into their life right now, because probably when I move into this third season where I realize that it was all a gift anyway, I would probably prioritize my choices a lot based on what I felt was going to give me the best overall well-being. And I can tell you that the well-being that I am striving for and hoping to create in my life is one where the people that I'm closest to are happy. They feel connected. They feel connected to me. I feel connected to them. We're joyful. It doesn't mean that we don't have problems or struggles at times, but we're connected. And for me, that's a high priority. And I think this third season is the one where we realize that all of it is a gift. Every single day, even the days that kind of sucked, the days that were the worst, those were still a gift as well. Because, I've heard it said that there's no day that is perfect, but there is something perfect in every day. And that sounds a bit cliche, but I think you can look throughout your days, even the difficult ones, and find something that you could say that you learned, a gift that you were given that you could take and help to improve the next day that you're living. And in that, you grow into another season. So what would be the overall goal here, right? I think the overall goal would be to recognize that you don't know what tomorrow is going to look like. And you never have, right? You don't know what today's going to look like. You don't know. You think you know, but you don't. And so I think coming from this place of I don't know opens us up to a probability that we could grow more than if we are absolutely locked on and certain that what we know is absolutely true. And I think when we can forget some of that and start to explore every day versus just surviving off of some revelation and knowledge we think that we have with limited information from our past, I think when we start to explore again, it fuels our soul, and being open to that to see what we can create, to have a little bit longer conversation with our friends, to reach out to our family, to ask some questions and really be interested in other people and realize that other people are a gift as well, instead of just something that we are supposed to use to meet our agenda. I think some people know how to build people. I think other people know how to use people to build their agenda. And I've got to make sure that in my life that I am sowing into other people while I'm also sowing into my life to be the best that I can be. And I think that I'm the best that I can be when I realize that every bit of this was a gift. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So if there's one thing that I can do today that might make my tomorrow better, or something that tomorrow I'll look back on and go, hey, I'm glad that I did that, then I think that's what it's about. I heard it said recently that certainty without clarity can be destructive. And so if you're certain about how your life has got to be because you already know, right, and you lack that clarity of the bigger picture that, hey, life is a gift, right? It's all a gift. If you lack that clarity, it can become very destructive. And so I just hope today that you'll recognize that what you think you know, maybe you don't know. I don't mean that you have to dumb yourself down and play ignorant. I just mean that you're open and you're anticipating learning more and growing more, and that you're excited about the potentiality of what today can bring, what tomorrow can bring, what your future can be like, and that you're not locked on to some old story that you made up when you were in another season of your life. So, hope you enjoyed this today. This is Ronnie Doss. If you want to register for our event, we've got an event coming up next weekend, Saturday, March 7th in Scottsdale, Arizona. There's still time for you to register. We got people coming in from all over the place. It's going to be a phenomenal day. RonnieDoss.com/events. If you'd like to register and come to that. If you don't want to come to that one, we have another one in Seattle, in the Seattle, Washington area in April. That's on our website. We have another one in Scottsdale in June. So you can look at those, but we would love to have you in one of our one-day Emerge events. They're awesome. I'm just sharing tools in those days to help people to change how they're doing their life, improve the quality of their life. And it's really neat because I'm improving mine while I'm doing it. I'm teaching it, and I'm also learning at the same time. And so I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do that. I would love to see you. So get registered for one of our events, or if you just want some videos and some of our programs that we offer online, RonnieDoss.com. Those are available there. Thank you guys so much for being here today. If you got anything out of this, please share it, like it, tell somebody about it. I look forward to talking to you all again very, very soon. Take care.